The rules are simple. Keep walking until there's one man left standing. Except that everyone who gets eliminated is killed on sight for losing. This is The Long Walk, a high-concept movie based on a story by Stephen King. And warning, this one may get emotional. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me today is Tim.
Hey, boy, are my feet tired.
Yes, we walked the walk already, so now we're going to talk the talk. This is a horror movie podcast, and today we're going to talk about The Long Walk, the new release that just came out based on a Stephen King novel. Admittedly, this one's not, like, the most strictly horror ever. It's like a little bit horror, there's a little bit of sci-fi. I think if I was to classify it into a category, it would probably be thriller, I guess, more than anything else. But it's a tough one to define. It's got a little bit of a few things in there. I say sci-fi because it's a kind of a dystopian alternate future or alternate reality, whatever you want to call it.
It's kind of weird because it's like a dystopian future, but it does also feel kind of retro. Like it's like, but there's not much, I guess, like science fiction about it, but we just normally associate that kind of dystopian alternate history reality takes or whatever, usually like with sci-fi stuff. So yeah, it is a little bit of a weird one to categorize.
Yes, but regardless, it's based on a Stephen King book. We'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button, helps out a bunch if you do, and you can, of course, also give us 5 stars on a podcast app, wherever you got us from. And you can also get bonus stuff by supporting us over on Patreon, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So, yeah, the premise of this one's simple, and I definitely knew the premise going in, because I got the trailer before every single movie we've reviewed in the last, 3 months. But there's a competition of sorts where a bunch of young men walk across a state in America, and there's no finish line, and last person standing gets richies or whatever, right? It's obviously it's defined in the movie, but I'm just sort of saying from the trailer and stuff, it's not clear what they get. But the you're thinking, okay, so what's the tension of this? Well, the tension is that when they drop out, when they fall behind, they get killed, right? So it's almost a little Squid Games. It's like, hey, it's just a game, but except you get shot in the head if you fail to keep up or get eliminated. So that's the premise. That's it. It's a group of characters walking for 100 minutes, and relationships are formed. There's gore, there's heartbreaking moments, there's all sorts of things, and we'll get into it in a bit. Now, given that you're a Stephen King fan, is it correct to assume that you might have read the book before this?
Yes. Yeah, I read it probably a couple of years ago, but I knew like the basic beats of it. But yeah, like some of the finer details I was a little iffy on because it had been a while, but this was one that it's kind of I don't want to say like lesser work of King, but I feel like King has so many books, but like if I don't know, he has stuff that would be considered like hidden gems or whatever. I think this is one of them because it's not one that people talk about a lot, and maybe part of that is because it never had an adaptation, which I guess the rights to this have been floating around for a while. Like I think George Romero was attached at one point, and Frank Darabont had.
Just for context here, when did this book come out? Because this sounded like it was a while ago now.
This is I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might literally be like the first thing Stephen King has written. Like, it's not the first book that was published, but
that was Carrie, right?
Yeah. But I think they say like he started writing this in high school, and then I don't know if he actually finished it or came back to it later or just held on to it until he had a publisher or whatever. But I would say I'm not sure if it'd be 70s or 80s, but this is one that's been around for a while. And then and technically it's not even a Stephen King book. It's this was one he put under his what do you call it, his alias or whatever, the Richard Bachman pseudonym. Yeah. So for a while he had books under Richard Bachman, so like stuff like this and Thinner and
Running Man, yeah, which I was about to bring up, because I think you can kind of see some parallels with the premise of this and what Running Man is, which is, you know, we're in a dystopian society. We're going to put people into a game that's going to be broadcast. Although that element's not as focused on in this particular, at least in this movie, maybe the book focused on it more. They mention they're being filmed, they mention they're being broadcast, but we never cut to like reactions of people watching TV or, you know, people making bets or whatever, because they could have easily went that route. Like, and it wouldn't even have been a bad idea necessarily, but they don't like dwell on it as much in this one.
Yeah, they're very interesting, you know, sides of like the same coin, where I feel like, you know, Running Man is really glorifying like you know, the kind of violence, like spectatorness of it, and then, you know, this feels a lot more like, you know, like witnessing the tragedies of war or something. You know.
Yeah. Also, like given when he wrote the book or when it was released, it kind of explains why it's maybe kind of retro feeling, even though it feels like it's set in the future. That, you know, because they mention a war happened at some point, but it's very vague as to what that war was, and it doesn't feel like it was one of the real wars. It feels like there was a World War III or something that we just don't know about, kind of thing. But again, it feels of a different era. Which makes me wonder that in the book they maybe didn't have the watches that kept track of their speed. I wonder if that was a thing when he wrote the book.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head.
But no, they just had someone who's really good at checking. They had one of the soldiers was just like, you know, like that's what they were good at. They were good at telling someone's speed by just watching them walk. Genius. Anyway, so I mean, were you excited for this? Just, I mean, forgetting the trailers or whatever, just when you heard they were adapting this, was it something you thought, oh, that's a good idea for a movie? Is this going to work? Kind of thing.
So there's a couple of things. This was a book that I quite enjoyed. Again, it's not one like I grew up reading, but a couple of years ago when I was trying to like go through every King book, I kind of came to this one and I hadn't heard much about it, so I was actually pretty surprised when I read it. I was like, oh, this is good. Like, I'm kind of shocked that, you know, more people don't talk about this. And I think if you do, you know, talk to constant readers, it was what they call like King fans, you know, they probably will mention this one a lot. But again, it's not like one that was in the bigger, you know, public consciousness. And you seem like perplexed about something.
So King fans refer to themselves, like the hardcore ones refer to them as constant readers. That's the...
Well, it's a thing because Stephen King would write, like, you know, if he would do an introduction or an afterword in his book, he would always like have the greeting be like, hello, constant readers, or, you know, something along that. So I guess technically he coined it and then people kind of, you know, latched on to it.
Okay, I mean, it's better than Slipknot fans being called maggots, I suppose, but yeah, fair enough.
I mean, I like it. You know, and he puts out enough books that you could constantly be reading like his stuff that I feel like it's accurate.
It came out of nowhere there. Like, see if you'd said Shiners or something like that, I'd be like, okay, I see where that comes from. I see what nerdy thing that the fans have picked as their moniker. But yeah, fair enough.
And I mean, I'm assuming he didn't like do it on his second book or whatever. Like, it was probably something after he had a few and noticed like, oh, people seem to really like this stuff, and I'm getting lots of like, you know, fans of all those things or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I thought the book was quite good, and yeah, I was excited when they were going to adapt it. I mean, like you said, I'm a big King fan, but also, like, as much as I love King, I'm so sick of seeing the same movies, like, remade over and over again. It's like, all right, I mean, I love Salem's Lot and it and everything, but you know, there's like some movies that are so well done, and then, you know, they just had to do like a random Carrie remake. Like, I feel like that one's even been done like so many times, with like weird like TV movies.
Yeah, that got a TV movie. I feel like most of the stuff's not been remade multiple times, but I can see how you'd feel fatigued that it feels like there's just a string of remakes where it's like Pet Sematary remake. You know, we're doing the and obviously, like the stuff that was TV movies, you kind of understand why they're doing like a big movie of
Right.
it. But I'm sure Tommy Knockers and The Stand are coming any day now.
I think they did announce the what's his face? Doug Liman is doing The Stand.
I mean, he's got a couple of good movies in him, so it's not a terrible pick. He did Edge of Tomorrow. That was good.
Okay. I hope I'm thinking of the right name. All right. So, I mean, if that's who it is, then maybe there could be something to it. But yeah, oh yeah, the weird thing about that, and again, I mean, this was all like early rumors and stuff, but I think they said they're going to do like one movie, which if you know anything about The Stand, it's just like, it's massive. So it'd be like if they're like, oh, we're going to do like a remake of, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but make it like one movie. It's like, I don't know how that would work.
I mean, they should do it with The Hobbit, but...
oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was like the opposite.
Yeah, it's the inverse.
Yeah. But so anyway, so I mean, yeah, I liked the book quite a bit. I was happy that they're adapting it. I was happy that we're going to get, a King thing that hasn't been done. And actually this year is kind of, I mean, obviously we have, Running Man, which is a remake, but
that's right.
But also, I mean, the thing that's weird about that though, is the original movie, while it's very fun, it is like 0% like the book. So,
but it's perfect though, Tim.
It is very good. but like it's almost like less of a remake and more just like, or I mean, I obviously haven't seen the movie yet, so I'm assuming that this will just be like, a proper adaptation instead of like, remake. So it feels like it's kind of fresh. But then we had like 3 other, King stuff this year that has never been made before. Like the Monkey, Life of Chuck, and then this.
Wait, I did not remember The Monkey was a Stephen King thing, and we reviewed that movie. I assume I assume you brought that up when we talked about it, and I would not have. If you said name 50 Stephen King movies, I don't think I'd have gotten to that.
It's also just been like a very horror packed year, so
it has been.
That was like back in February or something. So I enjoyed the movie, but even that I kind of forget. Like, oh yeah, The Monkey was this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously Conjuring was cleaning up last weekend and it was really doing well again. This weekend is number 2. Unfortunately for The Long Walk, it came out the same week as some anime movie came out that was apparently very successful, and that was number 1.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy, and I do like anime, but I've never even heard of this one.
Don't say things you can't take back, Tim. Come on now.
So I don't know, again being very rambly, but I was excited for this as a movie. I was a little concerned because I don't think I knew much about from the director by name, but when I heard people saying like, oh, this guy's directing it, that the thing they would kind of toss around would be like, oh, he did the Hunger Games or whatever.
He did like 3 of those, yeah.
Yeah, which I mean makes sense because that's another like dystopian future movie where people compete in this thing and die and whatever.
No, he did 4. He did everything. He's done every single one of those except the first one.
Oh wow. Okay, so I gotta admit though that had me a little worried because I don't know if I would say I disliked the Hunger Games, but I just never like was that into them. Like I saw the first movie and then I don't even remember if I saw the sequels. If I did, maybe I had them on the background and just wasn't really watching them. But
the thing for me with Hunger Games is that it's a good enough premise and it's very serviceable. At least the first couple are very serviceable. I think it goes a bit off the rails with 3 and 4 because they split the last one into 2 and it does whatever. But I think my thing with Hunger Games is that for a movie about children being forced to kill each other, it feels far too light and Hollywood fluffy. Like, it's too safe and like, oh, this is a PG-13 for everyone. And I'm like, no, these children are being forced to kill each other. This should feel horrific. This should feel like Battle Royale, funnily enough.
Right, yeah. No, I always thought it was weird that it was like these, and I don't know if that was like what kind of started the trend, but like this kind of YA dystopian books where it's like, oh yeah, these are like the things that like young teens and stuff are into, but it's like really? Like, it sounds kind of like crazy violent. And then I never read the book, so maybe they're more similar to the movies where it sounds like it should be more violent, but then, yeah, it's a bit more tame or whatever.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, I mean, the premise sounds violent, but I mean, they're definitely young adult books, whereas I don't think The Long Walk would have been considered, even if it was released today in its current form, I don't think it'd be considered a young adult book. Just, you know, based on how it tackles its material. I mean, again, I'm going based on the movie rather than, I've not read the book, obviously, but, like, you know, based on how it handles things like the subjects, like, I mean, the movie obviously has gore and stuff like that, and doesn't shy away from some of the grislier details of what's happening.
Oh, no, definitely. But that was kind of my worry going in, though, is, because it is a, gnarly, grisly book. So I guess what I was concerned about was, if you're getting the Hunger Games person, are they going to kind of do that to this and maybe sanitize it a bit and make it a bit more, suitable for YA audiences or whatever. I was excited going in, but then that was kind of my big concern, I guess. No. But then later, looking at the director, I was like, oh wait, he's done other stuff that I do actually kind of like. So,
really? Like the Bad Romance music video for Lady Gaga, like that?
I mean, that I couldn't tell you anything about, but I'm fairly confident he did Constantine, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah, but you're in like a weird minority in liking that, though. Like even most Constantine the character fans don't like that movie.
I think there's like a little bit of a cult following. I definitely like know people that are like, oh no, that movie's like pretty cool.
Okay.
It's doesn't really resemble the Constantine of the comics, that well. But I mean, if you're gonna change something up, it's you would do well to get Keanu Reeves to do it.
Depends what it is, I suppose, but I think that'll lead us nicely into the question which we've been building to, which is, Tim, what did you think of The Long Walk?
I was really happy with it. I enjoyed myself quite a bit. Again, it's been a while since I read the book, but it seemed fairly faithful, other than, I mean, there's a pretty big change, but I'll save that for spoilers, obviously. But I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty gripping. Like, I think the cast is great. I mean, especially the two leads. I really felt their chemistry, and I was rooting for them. And then one of the things I like most about Stephen King is his character work, and I could feel like very distinctive, like character beats and traits from a lot of the people in there. And then it didn't shy away from the violence. I think there's some obvious messages and stuff that you can glean from it, and surprisingly, and it is kind of like a weird movie to sell, because like when you talk about it, it's like, so you're pretty much just gonna be watching like people walk for like 90 minutes to 2 hours or whatever. But I actually do think they made it like pretty exciting, and I thought they did a good job of like seeing how this like would wear on you. And I am curious, like, is this something you could like really do? Because I feel like even if you're in like good shape, like after like a day or two of like nonstop walking, like wouldn't you just like collapse? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of curious like how far someone could actually do this in real life. But no, I was pretty happy with it. Going in, when the reviews were starting to come in, it was getting a lot of positive reviews, and like I saw some people saying like, oh, it's like the best movie of the year, which I don't think I would go that far. Like I liked it quite a bit, but it has been a really stacked year. Like I could see other years where this would be a bit higher on my rankings, but man, it's been such a good year. But I still enjoyed it quite a bit. And I guess one last thing I'll say is I really do appreciate the like simplicity of it, because like you were saying before, it is just like these people are walking, last one standing wins. If you, there's like a few rules where it's like, if you stop walking, you get like a couple of warnings, and then or if you like go off the path or whatever, you get your ticket, as they say. So I like that it's just very simple. And then again, like with these other kind of dystopian like survival contest movies like Hunger Games and stuff, I feel like there's always a bigger thing that they're trying to do. Like it's like, okay, so here's how the contest works, but now here's how the character is gonna like subvert it and try to take these people down, or like work together or whatever. And I kind of like that. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of something kind of going on there, but it's not trying to be like this big like thing where they're like, okay, like now we're gonna break all the rules and do this and that and blah blah blah. But it is just like, oh no, it's just a very simple premise, and we're gonna show that to you, but we're just gonna like take it as far as we can go and see like how what this does to people's bodies and minds. And yeah, so I was pretty happy with that. I thought it was really good.
Straight to the point as always, Tim. Yeah, I thought it was very good. It was the character stuff is the important thing here, because that really has to like sell the movie. You have to care about these characters, you have to care about them, they have to care about each other, even though they know that by the end of this only one of them can actually make it. That's because that's kind of the sort of the dagger of it all, kind of sticking in the back the entire time. But obviously, like as with any premise like this, it's all an allegory, it's all talking about other things. It's this, like the whole idea of the walk just kind of representing like the sort of like, it's basically all talking about capitalism. It's like, hey, we're all sort of forced out of this system where we kind of pretend we have a choice for certain things, but we don't really. And we're given this idea of like, we can get success, but we have to hope that everyone else fails so that we actually make it, because it can't just be everyone being successful, it has to be at the expense of everyone else. And that's kind of the sort of thing that it gets into, and the inhumanity of that is really where it gets to. But fundamentally, just on the surface level, it's a focused ass movie that just sets up its thing very quickly, sticks with it. There's like milestones along the way, so it has a structure. It doesn't just feel like it's just rambling, on and on and on, kind of without any kind of sense of shape or reason. But it feels very, very focused and streamlined in a way that I really appreciate. And I think that's why the premise works the way it does, is because it's not trying to tack on 3 subplots and things going on outside of what the central premise is. I think you could have gotten away with a little bit of it if they really wanted to, but I think the way it is actually the correct choice, which is just to focus purely on the characters in the game and nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you get a little bit of flashbacks in like a few scenes, but I think they did it like just enough where like, yeah, they're not overdoing it. And yeah, it's not like every character is getting this big backstory that we're cutting to or whatever. So yeah, I agree. I like that it's just very focused on like all these people, and like and it starts off right away too. Like it's not like you spend 5 minutes with this character getting ready, then you cut to this guy making his journey to the starting point or whatever. It's just like, oh no, like we're just throwing you in this world, and here we are.
Yeah, and arguably even the little bit of flashbacks you get, maybe I could have maybe even done without those, to be honest.
Sure.
And just kept it even more just focused and just have it kind of be revealed in the conversation with the others. Like any movie where it's like set in a room where a bunch of characters are trapped together and they get to know each other as the movie goes on. It kind of has that same kind of thing going, even though they're technically constantly moving through a space. Ultimately, the space is irrelevant. The fact that they're outside is irrelevant. It's all just like them in this little bubble, like interacting with each other, like they're stuck in a room. So the dynamics in the dialogue and how they're talking and how they evolve are the exact same as that type of bottle movie. It just so happens that this is a complete open space because we're outside walking on a road. But the same kind of rules apply for the most part. So, I think that stuff really worked. I think the leads are good. I think it also has like a good sort of like B and C tier set of characters that really prop it up as well. You kind of get like a sort of sense early on who might be leading to what and whatnot. And it doesn't shy away from the gory stuff. It doesn't shy away from some of the more logistical things. Like, I don't often see more than one person take a shit in a movie, but like this kind of hit those notes, for better or worse.
That was one of my first questions I had, where I was like, wait, so do you get bathroom breaks, or like what is the procedure for this? And oh boy, do you find out.
Yeah. There's no bathroom breaks. There's a short answer to that. So yeah, I mean, like there's enough like in the dialogue to kind of imply some history with this. This is not the first time this has happened. If anything, it's this kind of tradition, and it's kind of this propaganda thing, and they get into that a little bit. But ultimately, it's, the heart of it is kind of like the characters getting to know each other, and like a central group of them kind of becoming a team almost. But then obviously that inevitably has to either fall apart, or it's just going to end in tragedy, even if it doesn't. So I think, when we get to talking about that stuff in spoilers, there's a lot to kind of say about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, I mean, like you said, there can only be one winner, and like you see these people kind of getting real chummy with each other, and I was kind of like thinking like, oh, is that the smartest thing to do? Like to like start forming these friendships and stuff with these people that ultimately are it's either going to be you or them that survives or whatever. But I feel like you believe it in the movie. Like it feels natural the way they kind of like come together. And
yeah, I mean it feels endearing, but also for the analogy it absolutely makes sense, like because the whole idea of society, and like the idea that capitalism kind of like basically slowly kills us all, and some of us fail far too soon, and like they try and prop each other up as best they can, but ultimately like some are going to pull ahead and there's nothing you can do about it. Like all of that, like this is one of those movies where the analogies and like the subtext is so thick that almost everything in it feels like designed to work in that way. Never at the expense, really. It would, except maybe the ending. Maybe the only thing I'd maybe critique is the very final few moments kind of feel like it just goes into kind of, we're in the analogy now, as opposed to we're still dealing with the actual real world element of it. But yeah. I think there's an argument as to why it does that. So we'll talk about that in spoilers. Don't want to say anything else on that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about there. I'll ask you a quick question. How did you feel about Mark Hamill's performance? Because I've seen some people kind of critiquing and being like, he's like a little too over the top. He's really, being very hammy and stuff, which he's definitely a big character. But I don't know, it didn't really bother me.
I'll be honest, I didn't realize it was Mark Hamill until I looked it up afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
He kind of just, falls into this, like, the major role. Like, he's the guy running the competition. He's barking things about how this is good for your country, you'll inspire everyone with your effort and bravery, blah 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 blah. And again, it's just like propaganda telling people you have to sign up for the military, or because you need to be a hero. But like, it's all about like, you have to get churned through the system and all that stuff. As far as his character and performance goes, like, there was definitely a couple of moments where I felt like, okay, this is definitely on the caricature side of what this character is. I don't know if it bothered me, but I will say I definitely noticed that it felt less like a real person and more like, a cartoon of this type of character. Sure. Almost like he's a mythological figure, or just a representation of this type of military guy who is yelling about your bravery and good luck, son, and all the rest of it.
Yeah. I feel like maybe it would have been a bit more noticeable if he was like a constant presence throughout the movie, but he kind of just pops up like here and there, which I thought was fine.
Sure. But, yeah.
And it's kind of funny because this is his second role in a King movie this year, because he was also in the Life of Chuck. Very, very different character in that one.
Haven't even heard of that one, but I
mean, it's not horror, so.
Some of the best King movies aren't horror movies, though.
Yeah. I actually quite liked it. I would definitely. I mean, I think it's out on like digital now or whatever, but I would recommend giving it a shot when you get a chance. I think you would like at least the first third of it. I'm not sure how you feel after that, but
ringing endorsement. You'll like the first third.
I think the whole movie is good, but I mean, if you watch it, you'll find out like it's very segmented. So, and the segments are the first segment I would say is much more different than the other ones. So, depending on your taste, I don't know how you'd feel about it, but just watch it. It's good.
I don't know if I will, but I'll try and keep it in mind.
It is Mike Flanagan too, so I mean, I don't know how you feel about him.
I mean, we've talked about several of his movies on the show, I'm sure, at this point. He's all right. He tends to suffer the endings, which is ironic given that he's done some King adaptations now. But hey, let's get into spoilers. That's when we can talk about the movie properly. Sure. So we're now about the long walks. Full spoilers from this point forth. You have been warned. Now, I think trying to go through this in order would be a weird task, especially since I can remember all the major beats, and I remember like how a lot of the characters go out, but trying to remember the order of which the characters go out is, I think it would be tough without notes and like stuff like that. So, right. I think obviously the movie starts with the letter the main character Ray Garrity gets, which is you've been accepted via lottery. It turns out that there's one representative of every state in the US who goes on this, and they're in his home state. I don't know if I ever caught what the state was they were in. Did you?
If they did mention it, it was briefly, and I don't remember. It did feel like maybe kind of like Midwestern, kind of place, but yeah, not sure.
Midwestern, or maybe like it definitely didn't feel like we were in like down like either in like the belt of the South area. We weren't in California, we weren't in Texas, we weren't in Florida or anywhere like that. It felt like we were definitely north of that stuff. But I mean, I don't know the climate well enough in the US to pinpoint it based on just this. I mean, honestly, outside of a few of the small towns they go through where it's really obvious that we're in the US, like you literally could have told me this was like one of like 50 countries, because they're just going down a road and there's like fields and trees for most of it, so it's like this could be like 2 minutes away from me for all I know, where they're walking.
I think I saw someone that also had a critique where they're saying like, oh, it's kind of boring that like they're just walking through like past fields and all this kind of boring landscape, but I actually really dug that. Again, it kind of like boils down the simplicity of it, like I like that it's not a big like flashy thing where like they're having to go through these like obstacles or whatever. Like again, it is just like extremely like it's as basic as this kind of like contest can get.
It's not trying to be it's trying to be a character film. It's not trying to be some weird action movie where there's a bunch of like, because that could be fun in its own right in a very different way. But this is trying to do something a little bit more than that. It's trying to be something where you're thinking about the themes, you're thinking about the characters, and it doesn't want to get in the way of that. So I think that, that critique seems dumb to me. I feel like whoever says that is just an idiot, frankly. So we introduce the main character, and his mum says goodbye. His mum, played by Judy Greer, of course. I feel a bit weird.
Halloween fame.
I guess. I mean, I think of Arrested Development, but sure, Halloween, the modern trilogy. But I do feel a bit weird now that she's thoroughly into her era of playing the mother of people who are in their 20s. Like, that's strange, and I'm feeling old because of that. But we get our main character. We get him sitting down with our others. Obviously, our second main character is Peter. I kept trying to catch what his second name was as I was watching it, and I'm like, McFreeze? Yeah, I was like, Mr. Freeze? What is it? It's McVreeze with a V.
McVreeze.
McVreeze, yes.
Mm-hmm. And then I forget the actors' names, but the main character Ray is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So I think he's been in a few things. Like I think he was in a Licorice Pizza, and then
That's the main thing he's been in. He's not been in a ton of stuff. The other guy, Peter, played by David Jonsson. Do you remember what he was in? Because we saw him in something in the not too distant past.
Alien Romulus.
That is correct. He was the android brother. Yes.
Which I mean, again, that movie certainly has its faults, but I mean, other than having to say that insufferable line, I did like his character in the movie, or at least his performance.
He was an asset to it, and then sort of the main foursome kind of get round out with Arthur, who's this sort of religious guy, and then we got Hank, who's kind of this short Asian dude he's got like a really specific voice. I felt like he had like a really kind of like, I don't know what accent it is, but he had like a sort of like, I don't know, like
it almost felt like it was kind of trying to be like a New Yorkie smart guy, like kind of smart aleck kind of accent.
Yeah, I guess a little bit of that.
But yeah, it was like but it also felt like kind of unique.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of asshole characters, of course, because we have to have those. One's kind of a little bit more kind of like, I don't know, erratic with long hair, and then there's a sort of the one that's in good shape, who's kind of seen as the favorite. He's also a bit of an asshole as well. But
I just love that guy, like the guy in good shape, Stebbins. I just love his arc, or what he's going through, where he's like what the hell, like I'm in good shape, like I've practiced for this, and then like this is the time my body decides to get sick. Like you just see him, like he's, as it's going on, he's getting like worse and worse and like feverish and stuff, and it's like, oh, like that sucks so much. I feel like that's like what would happen to me. Like I'd train and then like some stupid thing like that would happen.
You'd have to stay away from your kids for like the month leading up to it, just so that you don't get sick. Yeah, and there's a few other faces you see like sort of sprinkled through it as well. I guess the other notable one early on is Curly, who's Jojo from Jojo Rabbit.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, but he obviously is like 16 now, but he's actually too young for the walk. They kind of point out that he must have lied about his age.
Was that the guy whose like name was actually Rank, and then?
No.
Okay.
No. Curly's the young one who goes first.
Okay.
No. Rank's a different one. Rank's the one that the long-haired guy kind of bullies into an accidental early death. Okay.
No, yeah, I know that he's the guy that the asshole bullies, but I for some reason I thought that was also the young kid.
No, Carly, because Carly's the first to go, so I'm surprised you don't remember him, because he's the very first one to lose.
Okay. I'm just conflating the two, I suppose.
Yeah. Because he gets a Charlie horse early on, and he's the first one to go. There is a tease before that. I think, is it the long-haired guy or the fit guy? But one of them like intentionally goes to tie his shoe early on, and like gets like his second warning, and then gets back on his feet. And the way the rules work is that it's like 3 warnings and they get shot if they fall below 3 miles per hour. But if you have a couple of warnings and you walk continuously above 3 miles per hour for an hour, a warning gets like taken away.
I think it's 3 hours.
No, it's 1 per hour. The reason why they were saying 3 hours is because that's what it would take to get rid of all 3 warnings when they had 3 warnings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
They set that up, and it's basically him gauging his like limits or something. I don't know. I don't see how that would help, to be honest. You got 10 seconds of a rest, but all right. Well,
I think he's just like an asshole. So like when people were like telling him like, "Oh, that was stupid for you to do that," and then his comeback is like, "Well, I just got like 10 seconds rest," at like just being defensive.
Yeah, I mean, just to go through like some of the notable eliminations, because obviously the first time it happens and the gunshot, like the first one, like you see like the face just kind of explode when the bullet hits him. Like it's like proper gory. There's also one later on that falls down, and they're particularly cruel, where they won't just put them out of their misery when it's obvious they can't get back up. They'll still do the count and give them the warnings. And like the one guy falls down, and like the tank jeep thing goes
treads.
over, the treads go over his legs, and he's just sort of lying there screaming in the background, but they still wait until he gets his third warning before they shoot him in the head, so they have to like, you know, suffer through it for a little bit extra.
They do a really good job of like keeping it exciting, because again, it just sounds like, oh, this is just a movie about walking, and then if you stop walking you get shot. Like, that sounds kind of boring if you just describe it like that, but I think they, you know, think of enough like interesting ways to, you know, differentiate stuff. And then the one thing I really liked is I forget if it was like the very first kill or like maybe like one after that or something, but very early on the characters are talking, and I think they say like, oh, you know, something along the lines of like, I'm kind of like, you know, nervous if like we're gonna get desensitized to it, like, you know, if it's gonna like stop being scary to us. And then I think it does like a good job with the movie as kind of making you feel that like as the audience, where like that first kill is very like in your face and gruesome, and then as it goes on, then they'll just start having kills just like randomly in the background of something. Yeah,
but it's like a U shape, because by the time you get to the back half of the movie, we're down to the characters that we know all of them. There's no red shirts left, so it sort of like comes back around where now it's people we care about, so it starts feeling bad again. And the exchange you're talking about really specifically is, I think it's Peter who says, "Oh, do you think we're going to get used to that?" And then Raven says, "That's what I'm scared of. This idea that we will become desensitized to it and we won't care anymore." So the idea of keeping your humanity through all this is also a recurring thing. But you know, we see people who's like their like ankle basically breaks and they're dragging their foot along for a little bit before they finally collapse.
I think that was the writer guy, which was like it was kind of a funny character, because like there's this guy with a notepad who's like going around and like writing stuff down. And he's like, I'm gonna make a book, and then it's just kind of funny because like, well, better hope that you're the one that wins if you have any plans on like actually finishing it.
Yeah, well, he also says, like, my book about like what it's like to actually go through the walk will make me rich, and then they point out you're going to be rich for winning anyway if you win, so why do you need to put the book out? It reminds me of a conversation they have later. It's when they're all like much more tired, like another like 24 hours later, and Hank is like really struggling at this point, and he's kind of like walking like a zombie. Where they're sort of trying to like keep his spirits up, and they're saying, hey, because you also get like a wish, like immediately.
A wish,
like, you win, you get all the money, of course, but you immediately get a wish. And they talk about how this one guy won and asked for an elephant, and he got an elephant. So they're like, what's your wish going to be? And they've got some different things. And he says, Hank says that he wants 10 naked women, right, at his place for after. And they sort of criticize it and say that's kind of a stupid wish, because you're going to be rich. You can just pay 10 women to be naked for you, like anytime you want. And he's like, I don't want to pay. That's not as good. That's awful. And they point out that, but if you get the wish, it just means that someone else is paying them to do it. Like they're not getting volunteers. They're not. I mean, maybe there'll be a fan club because he's the winner. I don't know, but like they're assuming that it would still be paid workers that are going to do it. And he's like, I never thought about it like that. Yeah.
It's also funny too, because we find out later that he was like actually married.
That's right, he's the only married one. Because they're all pretty young, and obviously part of the world building as they're going through all this is that financial or economically times are terrible, and part of the reason why this walk even exists is that it's kind of like, hey, this is inspiring to the country because everyone's living in poverty. So let's distract us from the real things that are going on with this stupid game. Everyone, like, I don't know. It very much feels like a propaganda style thing, and it's all about the like what they're using it to kind of like keep the population in control. Because later on, this is mostly in the flashback stuff, but we do find out that no, this is completely dystopian and totalitarian, where you can be killed for like listening to music that's banned or reading books that are banned and things like that. So we're very much in that type of world right now. So obviously as they're having conversations and they get there's funny bits between them, there's heartwarming bits. It feels, honestly, it's almost like they want you to feel bad when you get near the end and get worried about the characters, so they didn't even like toy with the idea of like the main characters turning on each other. Like they bring up obviously it would make sense for them to do so, But I think you never really feel like they're really considering it. Like, nah,
No.
we're better people than that. And there's a couple of shitty characters who will try and do stuff, but even they never like. I mean, maybe they specified a rule at one point that I missed, but maybe maybe it's illegal to like push someone because then you're like interfering with their natural walking or whatever. But none of the asshole characters even try and do that. There is kind of the one incident obviously that gets close to that is the long-haired asshole Gary, who is teasing the guy named Rank because his name's Rank, and Rank gets pissed off and starts trying to throw punches, and he eventually, on like the third or fourth punch, which he doesn't hit any of them, like the asshole keeps just moving out the way, but on the fourth punch, Rank throws the punch and he falls over and scrapes his face across the road, and it's pretty gnarly, and he can't get up, and he ends up getting shot, and that ends up being
they've been walking for a while now, so he's obviously like very tired and whatnot.
Yeah, so this ends up being like a big character thing for the asshole, where his ending ultimately is because he has been consumed with the guilt. Because immediately, as soon as he does it, as soon as it happens, he immediately tries to get everyone to agree with him that wasn't his fault. Like, he was just messing around. That wasn't me. His death wasn't on me. You saw that, right? And every single person does not like give him it. Like, they're like, no, like, you're an asshole. F you. Yeah, you just did that. Yeah. And and later on, like before he has his big final thing, he basically like is trying to buddy up to like Ray and be like, hey, I like you heard him, right? Like, was that my fault? And at this point, Ray just kind of tells him it wasn't, because he's trying to like keep him sane, because at this point everyone's going kind of kooky and like he needs to hear this. But ultimately he's like, no, I've been seeing this every time, like in my head over and over again since that moment happened. And it ultimately leads to this character killing himself in front of everyone, as kind of a, he stabs himself in the neck with a pencil or whatever it is he's got.
Yeah, I actually really liked this character arc, because when it first starts off, it just seems like, okay, this is going to be like one of the main antagonists, and he's probably going to do all this shady stuff to get people to trip up or fall down or whatever. And I like that they don't go that route. Instead, it's like, I mean, he's very much an asshole, but it's like, he gets this kid killed, and then the rest of the movie is just him dealing with that guilt and just being like driven insane. Like, it kind of feels like, I mean, so much about this movie feels like, war stuff, and like, and especially probably, with the time like King wrote it and everything, I'm sure there's a lot of like, stuff you can correlate to like the Vietnam War and everything. And this feels like the character that maybe like had like accidentally like had like friendly fire or something, or got someone killed, and then is just being consumed by the grief. And I just think it's really interesting seeing how that affects him. And then when they're all talking and they're saying like, oh, we're gonna, when they find out that Hank had a wife, Clementine, like, oh,
after he's died, obviously. And I think I just want to point out that Hank's kind of the first one of the bunch that kind of sort of knows he's about to lose, and just kind of says like, let me go, guys, like, I'm going to lose now, like, I know this is my time, I'm going, like, kind of thing. Like, I think he's the first one who has that kind of moment where I mean, I don't know if they actually agree to it, but at the very least he seems to know that he's about to lose, and then that becomes like a running thing for a lot of the rest of them, where they kind of make their choice, where they're like, it's my time, but yeah, like you were saying, after he's gone, they're all talking about doing, like, whoever wins, we should all agree that whoever wins should do something for his wife, since he's got a wife that is now a widow. Yeah.
And then, I just like, everyone's like agreeing to this, like, oh yeah, like, I'll send money. And then they don't ask, Gary. And then, just seeing like how that's affecting him. And he's like, he starts talking to Ray. He's like, well, why didn't they ask me? Like, I'll do it. I want to be part of it. And then, just that like reluctance with Ray, who like obviously doesn't want to be like, stuck talking to him or whatever. But, he can tell he's like cracking up. So he's like, no, like, and he's like, and you'll tell Peter that like, I'm part of the deal, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll tell him. And it also made me laugh because it's like Peter was like just like right there. But I think it's all just part of the like, they're so insane. They've been walking like however many days.
They're like 3 days in at this point, I think. Because I think by the end of the movie they've done 300 miles, which again, is that possible continuously? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess like if you're forced to, the body can probably do like spectacular things, but just it seems like very tough to do. And then I was very curious how the sleeping worked, but I guess they just like sleep while they're walking
Well,
into.
well, a couple of them kind of do, because some people can do that, but I think most of them just don't. Like, it's like, I mean, admittedly, I've not been walking straight for 2 days before. Maybe there's a point where I'd hit where I'd start sleeping while I'm walking, and the muscle memory would just keep me going. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, like I think you become like clinically insane or something if you're up for like longer than like 2 or 3 days or whatever. So I can't imagine, what that's doing to you mentally after that long.
oh, for sure. I to go back to what you were saying about like this being like parallels to the war stuff, I wasn't even thinking about that at all. And I think the reason why I wasn't thinking about it is because I was so into this as being a critique of society and like capitalism and the system, because this whole idea that the long-haired guy Gary gets someone killed, even though he doesn't intend to, like, he's just having fun. He's enjoying being an asshole until the kid gets killed, and then immediately he's guilty. And like, how does he process that? And he sort of turns into more of an asshole for a little bit, for a while, because he's trying to like bottle it down, but then ultimately it comes back with a vengeance where he finally kind of snaps and like wants to be a part of things, and then ultimately kills himself. I think, to me, what this movie's doing in a lot of ways is like putting a microcosm together of a group of different people who are in the system. And it's one thing to like know that your success maybe comes at the expense of someone less fortunate, right? In like a sort of abstract sense. But what this movie does, what this premise does, is that it forces you to watch the other people who are losing. It forces you to watch the people who are dying so that you might have a chance at winning. And if anything, 1 in 50 is actually still too good as far as odds go. As far as like real success in the world goes, 1 in 50 is actually great odds compared to what most people are putting up with. So I think that's kind of the idea of a lot of this movie to me, is like, oh, we're all fighting, we're all poor, we're all fighting to be that one that makes it up to the next class, right? We're going to be rich, we're going to make it big, and like we're told this is the only way we've really get a chance. There's no like normal way of doing it. This is the get rich quick option that we have that's put into place, and we have to watch the others like die and suffer before we can get to it. So that even if we do get to it, we're going to live with guilt for the rest of our lives. We can never, because there's even a conversation at one point where they're saying, oh, this idea that like some people say they'll do good once they're the ones that are rich. Like, is that a myth? Because like, can you think of any good rich people? They say that, and it's kind of like, maybe part of it is that when they get to the end of this, they're just so messed up by everything they've seen that like any noble intentions kind of get withered away because they're too. I don't even know. Like, I mean, we don't meet any previous winners. We don't know how they turned out, right. But like, given how this one went, I can't imagine they're in a good mental headspace.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's a very rich movie where, I feel like there's a lot of different, like things you can take from it. I think there's something they say at the beginning where they're talking like, where they say that the walk is like, technically it's supposed to be like voluntary, but then they say something, but like everyone does it anyway. Like there's like a compulsion where like you have to enter, even though
it's not even technically it is. I mean, they say it is straight up voluntary, but every single man puts his name in between a certain age. Like no one ever just doesn't put their name in for it.
Yeah, like to me that kind of felt like almost kind of like talking about like the draft or something. Like again, if this is kind of harkening back to like Vietnam or something, where it's like, yeah, these people necessarily maybe don't want to be here, but they like have to or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that you can take from it, and then I'm trying to think of like other like big notable stuff before like we really get into.
I think the big set piece that comes like kind of a little bit into it is the first night they hit a hill, which
that was cool, yeah.
Yeah, and basically they say that because we're 12 hours in or whatever it is at this point, this hill, because they always go the same route, it's always the same route every year. this hill usually claims like half the people that are there at that point, because if no one's went out yet, everyone's already been walking for a while. The hill makes it harder to keep up that 3 miles per hour because you're having to put a lot more effort in to like go up the hill. And as a result, and the real tension here with that is that Ray, the main character, he had like a near call just before this part where he was falling asleep or whatever, and he's on like 2 warnings, so he can't actually like go under 3, so he has to go. So he's like really determined in going up. It's actually after the hill. It's the next morning where they realize the writer guy's like completely snapped his ankle, because it's the next morning he dies. Yeah. But yeah, people are really struggling because it's one of those things where usually you can really hear clearly when one of the voices says, "Oh, number 32, you've got your first warning." But during that hill segment, there's like that voice is overlapping constantly because so many people are getting warnings like at the same time. So it really kind of like drives up like a kind of like tension where there's like, oh, there's a cacophony of all this happening. And like, you know, the main characters having to just sort of storm through and not listen to it. So it really creates an effect when you get to that part.
No, that was a great scene, and it's kind of like, you know, I'm trying to think like if there was like a monster movie or something, like that would be like the scene where it's like, oh, it's nightfall, and then like everything comes out, and then there's just like, you know, tons of creatures attacking and stuff. And then in this case, it's just like, instead of monsters, it's just a hill. But, you know, given that like scenario, it's like that much threatening. And yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Some mother effers always try to skate uphill.
That's so true.
You know, I think one of the other big exits is the other long-haired guy with the dark hair. He like basically he's in the last like 6 or 7, like he's really near the end, but he basically just decides to like steal the gun off one of the soldiers. And they kind of pointed out earlier actually that if you rush the soldiers or try to attack them, they won't shoot you in the head, they'll shoot you in the stomach, so you have to bleed out as like a sort of deterrent. There's like a punishment, like you have to suffer because you tried to come after us. But he actually successfully grabs the rifle and kills one of the soldiers, and then ultimately kills himself as well, because they're not going to like they'll let him go quickly. So he just sort of you know, goes out kind of like that.
I like this character because like we never really get his like backstory or anything, but like we just keep seeing throughout that he just like absolutely hates like cops and authority, and like every time he passes someone, he gives them the finger and stuff. And I saw it was like a nice bit of a character work where it's like, oh, okay, like he's not like a major character, so we're not getting like too much stuff on him, but you instantly get where the characters come from just like by the way he's acting whenever, you know, authority figures and stuff are around.
Yeah, well, it's worth mentioning that every time they pass a police officer or a soldier or anyone like that, they're always standing saluting as they walk past. And it's almost this idea of like false, like, I don't know what you call it, like the idea that we're propping you up and saying you're heroes for doing this, even though what this is barbaric. What this is awful, and the idea that the militant forces in place are there to propagate that, not only because they're the ones forcing it to happen, but they're also taking part in the parade, the pageantry of it, and acting like this is something that is noble and part of the country's like pride or heritage or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so like they're really playing that kind of up. It's kind of like I don't know, like really caring about the national anthem, even if like then you get mad that someone's kneeling in protest, and like you're like, oh, that's right, like this is like, I imagine like to these officers at the side of the road in this movie, like not saluting this or talking badly about the long walk and criticizing it would be seen as like a faux pas.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, so much of the movie is like, that idea of like, trying to go back to the old ways when things were good, but then like in reality, it's like, well, things weren't good then, and we should be trying to, progress forward instead of, having these authoritarian, people in charge that are like, no, like, we just want, things back to the way they were, and blah, blah, blah. And, because they keep saying like, oh, like, you're the long walk, it'll inspire people and get people going again, but clearly that's not like gonna fix the problems of this country,
Also,
but
how long have we been doing this every year, and the country's still a piece of shit? Like what?
Yeah.
what exactly is
Exactly.
the long term like roadmap of this?
Yeah.
That's a question. Worth mentioning, they do get unlimited refills of water, and they get rations every day. So just to mention that, we should mention the shitting, because there's two notable shit scenes. One is a guy who actually gets killed. Like, he literally dies because he needs to take a big shit. Because he just pulls down his trousers
diarrhea or something.
Yeah, he crouches down and he tries to shit it out as quickly as he can, and you see it come out and hit the ground. And after the second warning, he sort of like quickly jumps up and he keeps walking, but then you see it on his face. He's like, "No, I need to keep going. And he crouches again, and ultimately he gets shot while he's crouched. While he's squatting to shit, he gets shot in the head, which is both equally dark but also a little bit funny. Like, just a little bit.
I mean, yeah. Like I said, one of the first things that popped into my mind was like, okay, like, what do you have to do? Yeah, when you have to go to the bathroom, and then, clearly, yeah, some people probably just are letting it go. Some people probably better at holding it in or whatever. But I mean, I like the idea of exploring all the different ways that this can affect you, and then like this person, you having diarrhea and just not being able to handle it, and I like the way they like lead into it, because I think one of the other characters goes to the other one's like, oh, just heads up, like, something nasty is like happening up ahead, like, like be on the lookout or whatever.
Yeah, it's the writer character, I think it says it to them.
Oh, yeah. So then they, it's like you're getting prepared for like, oh, like, what are we gonna see? And then they don't shy away from it. Like, you see, just like the full on ass and shit coming out, and like you said, it is in a way darkly funny, but it is also like kind of horrific, where it's like, you're so accustomed to these simple comforts of like, oh yeah, you got to go to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom, and then in this situation,
again,
that's something that can be deadly.
And the analogy of this is all just like critiquing the system, the idea that society can't allow you to do something that you need to do because that'll get in the way of the system. Oh, we can't give you, I don't know, like healthcare or time off, right? No, get back to work, you little cretin. Like, the money, the numbers must keep going up, kind of thing. Like, it's very much kind of
exactly
standing in for that. Later on, one of the main characters, Arthur, does also like pull back and like quickly squat and pop out a poop. He gets it out just in time and he gets back on his feet, but he's like, that's the quickest shit I ever took. He also says that some guys are like a once a week shitters and he's more of like a once a day. And I'm like, wait, who are these unhealthy guys that only shit once a week?
Yeah, that is a bit much. Like, yeah.
Like, I'll skip a day occasionally, but
yeah.
Like, skipping 6 days in a row, that's like going to the doctor. What's wrong with me territory?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I mean, maybe the only thing I could say is in this like dystopian landscape, maybe people have so little food or whatever that they're just not eating enough to go or something. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, a week is stretching it. That is tough.
Fiber's hard to come by, I guess.
Unfortunately, though, he doesn't get a chance to wipe. So all the characters are like, "Oh man, like I love you, but can you please walk away from us?"
What would he even wipe with? Like, obviously, he didn't wipe.
Yeah,
what's he gonna do? Just use his hand? That's worse than not wiping.
Yeah, but I just like imagine like the smell would just be so like horrific. Like also
the BO alone would probably be horrific by day number 2, I imagine.
Yeah, it also like this looks to be like fairly like hot climate wise. Like I mean, I imagine they're doing it somewhat summerish or something, but it's very sunny out, so I imagine that it's probably a lot of heat, and then the BO, the shit, and it's not gonna be smelling too good.
Yeah, some of them will definitely be vomit. I mean, they don't really show that, but I assume some of them vomit at some point as well, because, you know, eventually I think you'd have to. So, you know, like we said, though, there's a lot of bonding between characters, the main two in particular. You know, they get close, they open up a little bit about their past, and they kind of refuse to say certain things about themselves, and then you get the payoffs to that later where they do open up. The big moment with Raymond is that because this is his home state, they're going to go through a small town where his mother lives, where he lived, and he's going to see his mother, and like he's like the only one in the entire group that's going to get to see someone they know whilst he's on the walk. And that scene's quite a big sort of emotional scene because he actually runs over to her, and one of the rules is if you step off the road, you get shot. No warnings, just shot. And he runs up to her and tries to say sorry, you know, like, you know, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done this or whatever. And it's actually Peter who runs over to him and gets his own warnings during this and grabs him and says, no, we need to go right now, and like pulls him. So that's one of the many times that he actually saves Ray's ass when Ray might be, you know, there's moments where he's falling asleep, there's moments where he's like stumbling or slowing down, and Peter's there to help prop him up and kind of keep him going.
Yeah, and I thought Judy Greer's reaction in this was particularly like good as well, because like clearly all you want to do is like, you know, have the, you know, mom and son hug and everything, but she is like yelling at him like, no, like get away, because like she knows like, yeah, if you step over here or you stop walking, you're gonna get it. So as happy as she is to see him, like as soon as he starts coming over, she's like, no, stop, go.
Yeah. She's like, go now, and she's like, this is the last time you'll ever see these, because it's the last time she sees them. But yeah, but it's a good scene. It's really well done. As we're sort of really thinning out, and like Arthur also does a whole thing where he's like, he knows he's about to go, and he's like sort of like being carried by the other two, and he's like, hey guys, just promise me you won't look when they do it. And they're like, yeah, we promise. And there's a moment where he just pulls away and stops like walking with them, and like he dies like out of focus in the background, so they go for the emotion rather than the gore for him, which makes sense. And it's actually down to the final three. It's our main two, and then Stebbins, the one who's like in shape but has been kind of sick with a fever, and he's the one that's been, you know, he's not as assholish as the one who got the other guy killed, but he's like kind of assholish in that way where he's very serious. He's like, let's not make friends, let's not do this. And there's been a few things he said throughout. Obviously, it turns out at one point that he's the Major's son, although it's implied from him that he's not just like his only son. He's like one of several bastard children that the Major has. So they do hint at that early on, because the Major says, good luck, son. But the son just sounds like he's saying it to someone young, not like his son. But so they set that up, and he says a bunch of stuff throughout the movie. Notably, when they're getting near the end, when there's still maybe like 5 or 6 left, he basically says, hey, we should all agree not to help each other anymore, because now all we're doing is prolonging the end. Like, all we're doing every time one of us helps someone else now is making this last longer. And Ray's like, oh, maybe he's got a point. And still, having said that, like, Peter, even though he doesn't necessarily like argue against him, he still helps him, like, you know, for the rest of it. But he is saying stuff like that, which is why it's particularly notable when they get to the bridge, and this is where Stebbins, who's been like, I'm the favorite for this, I'm going to win, blah, 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 he makes the choice to sort of end this now for himself, and basically starts talking like he's about to lose, and says, hey, when you get to the end, because they know it's the final two, and the Major always does the last kill himself, there's going to be more of a crowd, there's going to be people there, you know, brace yourself for that or whatever. And yeah, it's kind of this, you know, and they're in the rain at this point, and he's, you know, saying he's goodbye is maybe a bit of a strong term, because he wasn't really friends with them, like some of the others were, but it's effective though, because he has been kind of this cold character the whole time, and even he feels like he's like throwing the towel in and, you know, saying some advice before he goes. So this is probably a good time, though, before we talk about how it ends, to go back and talk about Ray's backstory that's kind of like revealed throughout the movie. And that is that his father's dead, which is implied right at the start of the movie. They kind of hint at that. And the reveal is when we get a flashback, is that the Major killed his father because his father was caught with materials that he shouldn't have, namely books, music, and he's been teaching his son this stuff, which is why Ray knows, various things that the others don't. And the father's taken outside by force, and he's given a choice at gunpoint. Like, you can basically pledge allegiance to the state right now and say that you've done something wrong and that you'll be a good little boy for Uncle Sam from henceforth, or face termination. And the dad, being like headstrong and devout in his beliefs of like, nope. He's like, he turns to his son and says, remember who you are, never let them change that, and takes the bullet. This is actually the scene where I wasn't in love with the Major character, because it did start to feel like almost like a caricature of this type of character in a dystopian movie. Like up until now, when he was just given the rules and he was just sort of the face of the competition, I thought it was fine. It was really just this part and maybe the ending where I felt like he almost feels like not a real character at a certain point, right? And
to me, it feels weird that it's like, okay, like, so what exactly is this guy's role? Because it's like, it'd be one thing if it was just like, oh, like, yeah, he's in charge of the long walk, which obviously seems to be like, a very big deal. But then also it's like, oh no, it seems like he just like is weirdly like in like a lot of these characters' lives, and it's like, oh, he also just happens to, be the one that killed your father, and then he's also this other character's father. Like, I don't know, it just seemed like maybe a little too convenient for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The other thing for me with this flashback is that I thought, because the first time you see a glimpse of it, he says he was dreaming, right? Which he was. And I thought, oh, that makes sense, because it looked like he was like his current age, but he was wearing like kids' pajamas. But then when the scene like continues later and we see the whole thing, I was like, oh no, he was just wearing these like child-looking pajamas.
It is weird, yeah.
So that just stuck out to me as being a bit odd. But anyway, he reveals to Peter that his plan is, if he wins, is that he wishes to get a gun right there and then, the carbine that one of the soldiers is carrying, so that he can shoot the Major immediately. And like, that's what he wants to do. He wants to do something that might enact change, that by doing this, like, he'll inspire people. And and I think maybe one of the better parts of character writing, as much as I don't really like the flashback that sets it up because it feels a bit hokey, and look, the dad turning and saying his last words feels a little bit cheesy, which I don't think, most of this movie is not cheesy, but that scene's a bit cheesy.
A bit, yeah.
Is Peter basically saying, yeah, but your dad also just decided to kind of give up rather than like stick around. And a big part of like the characterization for Peter that we get throughout the movie is that he's had a bit of a rough past as well. He talks about being an orphan and like how he was like, stealing stuff and running from town to town and things like that. And he had a near-death experience where someone stabbed him. It's why he has scars on his face and chest. But when he woke up in the hospital and he had a second chance at life, he's like, well, I tried to see the good and stuff. And he's like looking for the positive, and he's trying to say, well, no, like, if you win, do something with that money, like, be good, like, find good things to do with it. You're more of an inspiration if you keep inspiring other people to be good than just like this one thing. And it's almost like you're telling yourself the ritual, the pageantry of like the heroic death, because they'll probably kill you once you do this. Effectively, you're just doing what your dad did. You're just kind of like going out in the blaze of glory because that's easier than staying and fighting in like the ways that will matter long term. And that's something that Ray kind of realizes later after he's had that scene with his mother, where he's like, you were right. This is a bunch of bullshit. Like I'm just taking the way out like he was, and I've made a huge mistake. So I thought that stuff was quite interesting, because I thought it was like really nuanced to not just do because I got excited when he first said, oh, I'm doing this because I want to kill the Major. I was like, okay, that's interesting. His goal's not really the money. His goal is this revenge, right? And that's kind of cool. It's different from the other characters. But then once Peter starts arguing against it, and sort of like we start exploring, like, is that the right thing to do? The fact that he basically convinces him that it isn't, but then the end of the movie is that Peter's then like basically broken so much by the end of it that he ends up doing what Ray wanted. Because we're getting to the end now, really, which is like them close to the finish line, and Peter chooses to let Ray win. He steps back and stops walking, but Ray turns back, runs and gets him, and makes him move before the third warning, and says, "No, not yet. Keep walking for a little bit." And he's like, "Okay." But then once they're walking for a little bit, Ray stops walking. And because they both got warnings when he went back to help him, he's going to run out of warnings first. So now it's going to be over. Like, now Ray's going to die. He says, "Sorry, Mum," before he gets shot. And then it's Peter's left standing as the winner. And he's not happy. He's screaming, "Get off me," because he wants to help Ray. And, we get this whole scene playing out in slow motion. The rain's coming down on everyone. And the Major comes up and says, "What's your wish, son? You're a hero. What's your..." And there's fireworks going off. The crowd's cheering. The crowd, by the way, which seems to disappear as the scene goes on, which is...
So...
Yeah, you go.
I mean, I have a lot to say, but there's... I do think that's interesting.
Do you want me to finish just, like... summarizing it, right, and then we'll get into the meat of it. So he obviously pauses. It takes him a long time to answer, and you kind of think he's going to ask for the gun because of what you've just put him through. He's going to give in to this idea of wanting the judge, and I think that to me that's quite an interesting thing. Is it's not like so bleak to me in the sense that, because you could read this as like a super like depressing ending where even the good character who looks for the good in things has been broken. And he has been to an extent. Like, that's definitely happened. But I think it feels less bleak to me in the sense that I'm looking at it less from like what the character's going through at the end, and more of what it kind of represents that, like, because I mean, the movie literally ends after he shot the Major and everyone seems to disappear, which is why it starts to feel like it's not real almost. It feels like it's just kind of like fantasy at that point. But he looks down the road and there's more road. And he starts walking, and then the title comes up saying "The Long Walk," and it's like, yeah, like the road keeps going. It's not over just because this is done. Like, if the road represents life and like going through the system, like, it's not over. So, I kind of like what it's doing with the ending in some ways, but I also think it's a little bit strange tonally that the crowd seems to disappear, that no one seems to jump on him after he shot the Major. Like, it kind of feels like we go into like dreamland almost the second that happens. Or maybe, because I almost thought it was going to like snap back and it was all in his head, and then he just says something else for the wish. Like, he was just thinking about it or something. But then the movie ended. So anyway, thoughts on all of the ending there?
So I do think I really like what they did there when they're showing, what Ray wants and what Peter wants, because essentially they want the same thing, which is they want to change the system, but they just have, these two very radical ways about going about it. And like, Ray is like, "Oh no, like, we gotta, burn the system down," and like, he's talking about, the like this very like violent act of rebellion, and then Peter is like the opposite, is like, "Well, no, it needs to change, but we need to be," he's like a little bit more inspirational, like, "Oh no, like, we need to inspire others and show people that, like, there's that you can do good and change stuff." And then I like that he says like, "Hey, maybe I wish that there could be two winners of the Long Walk," which is just kind of like, nice and sweet and stuff. But then like you said, it ends up getting reversed, and I just like that the movie's showing you that, like, this corrupt system that like pushes you so far that the idealistic person, is basically pushed to that, edge where, like, okay, now we have like no other choice than to, try to, burn the system down. And
you've got these two ideologies between the two characters, and like ultimately at the end, Peter basically, like, because Raymond's been convinced that he has to sort of lose to let Peter win. Like, that's the only... you've got people sacrificing themselves for someone else when, like, the system's kind of forced them into that position. And, like, the real tragedy is that no one should have to do that. Like, there's no reason why all 50 people can't equally win, but the system insists that there has to be a winner.
Yeah, and then... spoiler alert for the book in case anyone is interested in going to read it or whatever. But this was like the biggest change that I noticed, because the book actually ends with Ray winning, and then it's essentially like he wins, and then I guess it's a little similar in a kind of like a weird open-ended thing where it's like he wins and then he basically just keeps walking, and that's it. But the thing that I actually did like kind of the swerve here was that like I feel like it would have been maybe a tad weird. Well, I don't know. Just maybe it would have seemed bad to have like a black man like sacrificing himself for like the white guy. Like I don't know. I feel like that would have been maybe like a weird touch. So I kind of like the reverse of it, where it's like he tries to do that, and then Ray is like, no, actually, I'm gonna sacrifice myself for you.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even thinking about it in that sense. I was just sort of thinking about it in the sense that like Peter had done what he believed in. He had like inspired Ray, he'd convinced him of doing things his way, and because Ray as he's like dying, he says, "No, it has to be you because you see the good in things." Like, he does this because he believes that Peter's the better one to go on and do something with the victory. But the trauma of witnessing this, of his friend, his new best friend, doing this so that he can win, just makes him want to kill the Major. And again, maybe you could read it as like, did he actually do this at the end? I don't know, but I think the symbolism of like, no, the road's never done. Like, just keep on walking. No. Like that part makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. When you talk about the ending, is like, I also was kind of thinking, like, I like you were saying, like, oh, are they gonna snap back and show that like he made a different wish or whatever? Like, my thinking was more like, oh, maybe as soon as he shoots the Major, that they just like gun him down or whatever, and then the rest is just this kind of like weird death dream or whatever. Because like you said, it's like very weird that the crowd just disappears and everything. But I mean, I kind of like the like kind of surreal open-endedness in this of it.
I don't know how I feel about the surrealness of it. I think that's maybe the one thing that's thrown me off a little bit. But I mean, I like everything in the ending up until that point, though. Like, I like the attempted sacrifice of Peter, and then Ray kind of double like twisting it back on him. Like, I think that stuff is really good, and then like, those final moments are really good. Just the surreal part afterwards is a little bit like, I don't know, maybe it'll work better for me in a second viewing, but it's a very minor nitpick overall, though, because like, the flashback scene, I think it's a bit cheesy. I think this dreamlike quality to the last like 30 seconds to a minute is maybe a little bit strange for me. But the rest of it, as far as like a thrilling plot and simple premise goes, where you're sort of like, you've got like this very nice like pace of like people being eliminated. Some are fun, some are tense, some are emotional, and like caring about the characters. And you do care about the characters. It's something that the movie does very well, is make you give a shit about these people and what's going on. And the fact that they're good people who are arguing like ideologies of how to make the world better. Ray's not like some awful guy because he wants to kill the Major. You understand why he wants to do it, and it makes some sense. But absolutely, it's very different to like the way Peter views the world, a lot of the characters want to help each other, and it's very endearing, which just makes all all their deaths as the movie rolls on just all the more traumatic and sad. So yeah, good stuff.
I forgot to mention, because you brought up the title coming up at the end, but
the early on it came up really late, didn't it? It was like after the first death, it finally came up.
And I actually just thought that was like really cool, because it's so much build up, and then I thought it was just a good cut to the title right after that first death.
Yeah, which was like 20 minutes in or something. So fair play to them. All right, Tim, what are you rating The Long Walk out of 10?
I was really happy with this. Again, another strong movie in a very strong year. I mean, I'm constantly been very happy and surprised with a lot of the stuff coming out this year. I think the characters are great. I was interested throughout the whole movie. Again, I appreciate the simplicity and like just really going for it and like exploring like all the different facets of like what this would do to your body and your mind, and then also just feeling very like, unfortunately to say, like kind of timely and then relevant, and no, a very good picture. I'm gonna give it a pretty high score. I think I'm gonna go, I think as high as an 8.5, and then yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I don't really think I have too much negative to say about it. I'll definitely check it out again, and I don't know. I wonder if even watching it again, maybe it just might get nudged even a little bit higher. But yeah, I think I'll stick with the 8.5 for now. And it's funny because again, I'd heard people saying it was like, oh, like the best movie of the year, and I wouldn't go that far, but I could definitely see this like being the best movie of like other years or whatever. But it's just we've had a strong year where it's like already like 3 or 4 other movies. So I'm like, well, that was the best movie of the year, and that's just like with horror stuff. If you count like
I was going to say,
stuff,
are you counting just horror when you keep saying movie of the year, or like are we talking in general? Because that's a pretty bold statement.
I mean, either way, like because
I'll put it this way.
I do think
I think it's too early to call. Like, I think so many if we're talking movies in general, too many movies that are like contenders for movie of the year come out between like November and December, and then often I won't get to see them till January or February because they won't come out in the UK till then. So it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to say already. I
don't know. I just like talking about it because I don't know. I just think it's been a very strong year, especially compared to like last year, which I felt was, kind of bad. Like
last year wasn't bad. You said this last year. You're wrong. 2023 was the bad year for horror. That was the year
that
where,
was the bad one. Okay.
Yeah, 2023 was the year we had Talk to Me, which we liked, but kind of it got number one because there was like no competition. Last year had like a good amount of stuff.
Okay.
Last year I had Terrifier 3, Heretic. What else do we have last year? There was a bunch of stuff. Hold on, I'll scroll up. I'll scroll up here and find things. Last year I had Long Legs, Nosferatu, The Substance, First Omen, Immaculate. I was going to say Immaculation there. Immaculate.
Those are pretty good. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of 2023. That was
2024
really bad year.
Was a perfectly solid year overall for horror movies.
Yeah.
Now this year might be better, but 2024 was a perfectly solid year. 2023 was a rough year.
Okay.
I think you're just remembering Strangers Chapter 1 and everything else is just jetting out. There's always going to be shit movies. In fact, this year's got a Strangers movie too, because I got the trailer for it for the 5th time before this one.
It's soon too.
Oh, also the trailer for Black Phone 2, which apparently he's just Freddy Krueger now, so that's fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by that.
Of course you are, you sick freak. Anyway, you give it 8.5.
I didn't like the first one, but
yeah, it's 8.5. Yeah, the only new trailer I got today was for the dog one. I got Good Boy, which is
nice.
all from the dog's perspective. It's an interesting premise. We'll have to do that, but.
I'm excited for that. I'm curious how. I don't know if it. Well, I guess that's good if you're getting a trailer for it, because then maybe it'll be like somewhat ready for both of us around the same time or so.
You would hope. I have no idea.
Because it was supposed to be a smaller movie, but then I think the trailer got so much buzz. At least over here, I know they started expanding the release.
Anyway, my rating of The Long Walk. Yeah, the movie's great. I think early on it felt confident, it felt like it had a strong premise, and it spends all of its time building the characters and the relationships. It knows when to treat the kills as something that should be in your face and shocking, when it should be in the background, and by the end you find yourself caring, and there's almost this sort of gut feeling every time you're like, oh, like, this is clearly where this person's about to go. And it works because often the character themselves is like, I'm about to go. Like, they know they're about to lose and be killed. So I think that stuff is super effective. I just have the little nitpicks. Like, I think the flashback scene is a little on the nose and cheesy, and like really we could have just heard it from Ray's mouth. I think that would have been fine. And then the ending, the sort of dreamlike quality to the last like 30 or seconds or a minute did strike me as a little odd in the moment, but it doesn't diminish like how effective everything is. Like, you know, the ending of the movie really is like how Ray lets him win. Like, that's the true ending to me, and then everything after that's kind of gravy, basically. So I'm going to go 8 out of 10. Like what you said, it could maybe rise a little bit on future viewings, but I think it's a solid 8 out of 10. A nice addition to this year's roster of movies, and yeah, happy with it. All right, well, there you go. That's The Long Walk. Next week on the show, we are looking at a film from earlier this year. It came out in March, I believe, and that is The Woman in the Yard. What's so funny, Tim? Why are you laughing?
Don't know.
You've not watched it yet. How would you know if there's something to laugh about?
Yeah, I don't. It's a blank slate. I mean, maybe another contender of the year. For us, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, join us next week for the stinker that we recorded 3 weeks ago, The Woman in the Yard. But that's coming next week. And then after that, we're into October, and the Octoberthon will rage on. It'll be a later Octoberthon than it has been the last couple of years, because Tim was moving a lot this summer. Normally we get recording early in like June or July. This year we're starting to record them like a week or two before October, so it's going to be a little bit later, but there'll definitely be at least 2 episodes a week, and we've got some stuff planned, and you know, it'll be a good fun time joining the horror antics. Of course, you can support Streams After Midnight over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV or via YouTube membership and get access to the back catalogue of bonus episodes. In fact, we just had a new bonus episode go out this past week. We did a film called Anguish, which you should probably go into spoiler free. Don't look up the premise of Anguish if you're going to watch it. Just watch it. But we talked about that. You can get that via Patreon or YouTube membership, and we also do even more stream segments where we do like a little bonus discussion every week. For this one, we did top 5 Stephen King horror movies, although it kind of also spiraled into a what's with all these horror TV show projects that keep getting announced conversations. So a bit of a twofer this week, but yeah, there's a whole back catalogue of them now as well, doing various things and conversations. So thanks to everyone who already supports us. It is greatly appreciated. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time. Keep watching scary movies. Goodbye.